as a theory that you, with good taste, let your own personal views about creationism, and that's a possibility and the kids should consider. But he said our state law has just been passed, and in this state, evolution will be taught as fact, not theory. And you will no longer be allowed to add any of your own personal innuendos. Now, I know where you're coming from. I respect you. You're a quality teacher. I don't want to lose you. But you have two choices. Either you teach it as fact without comment, or you go find another job. He has seniority. He's worked his way up the pay scale. And the only other option was with a private Christian school at less than half the salary. And he comes to you and says, what do I do? I got a family to support. I've got bills to pay. But he's pulled this way. He's torn between two worlds. Snapshot number 4, true story. Student walks into English literature class. Teacher pulls out a book, hands one out to everyone, says, we'll be reading this book, and he looks at the cover. It's as new age as he can believe. He glances through and sees what it is, and she says this will be followed up on the same subject by a movie. He knows and has heard of the movie and knows it's rank. Not only spiritually, but in terms of violence and sexuality. Surpassing anything that his parents would ever allow him to see or his own convictions would allow. What's he do? Does he run the risk of raising his hand or going to the teacher and saying, you know, you really don't understand, this really violates my convictions. And I know that religion can't be taught in public schools, but ma'am, this is just filled with religion, and that movie is not something I want to participate in. And hear the scorn of a teacher, the laughter possibly of his classmates, and maybe rejection? Or does he quietly fold in his convictions, go through the motions, and do what he knows is wrong because of peer pressure? He's torn between two worlds. 5th and final snapshot, true story. A person is married to what they would consider an impossible, but we'll call a very difficult mate. The mate is quite shrewd, understands enough about biblical Christianity to just turn the knife in the relationship. He's not unfaithful, or she's not unfaithful. It's not an area of sexual infidelity. But it's a situation where, you just know what really gets to someone, and this mate delights in making life miserable and seems to always come full circle and blame it on God, Jesus, the Bible, the church, his or her new friends. And then when they fail to live up to the perfection of Christianity, then the knife goes in, the ribbing, the emotional harassment. And life is getting harder and harder and harder. There's no biblical grounds for divorce here. But as she or he sits in the break room, all their friends say, why do you put up with that stuff? Hey, give them their papers. Get out of that. I don't believe in God, but if there's a God, he wouldn't want you to be this unhappy. He's got a better plan for your life, doesn't he? Divorce that jerk. Convictions say this. The world says this. Between the rock and the hard place. Now, there's 2 questions I want to ask you. Number 1, if these people were lined up outside your office or going to walk into your living room and they said, now, don't give me any trite, cliche answers because there's a lot on the line. I got a family to support. I'm going to pay a high price. So tell me what I ought to do. But when you tell me, give me a basis for it. Show me in God's Word. I'm a Christian. I want to follow Him. Show me in God's Word what I should do and why. What would you say? What would you tell them? What book of the Bible, what verse would you open to? What would you say? Second question I have for you is a little closer to home. What would you do? What would you do? Not what you ought to do, not what you know is right, but what would you really do? You put yourself in whatever situation hits closest to home, and let me ask you, in your heart of hearts, what would you honestly do? And why? And then let's think about the price you would pay either direction you go.